I'm Trion Verdery. I support the people's right to bear arms. That is, to have weapons that can kill other people. Now, I'm aware that there's been a variety of previous kinds of government on the planet, and that these had a variety of levels of quality. It is always the people's right to overthrow any government that they feel they'd like to overthrow. Now, when you think about the right to bear arms, there's a new opportunity. If you look at what a bullet is frequently just a small, fairly massive projectile, frequently made of metal, traveling somewhere between 1,000 or 2,000 miles an hour. Now, when you think about it, previously, bullets were used as firearms. Thus, previously, a person had to carry ammunition to shoot people. When you think about it, a very ordinary 20th century vehicle that can travel 100 miles an hour has a drivetrain and a capability of processing chemical energy into motion, which is capable of moving more than 5,000 pounds of metal 100 miles an hour. Or, when you think about it, that's about 500 pounds of metal at 1,000 miles an hour. So, or 250 pounds of metal at 2,000 miles an hour, near the range of armor-piercing bullets. So, how could anybody, from a Palestinian to any freedom fighter, to anybody who objected to any government anywhere, take an ordinary transportation vehicle capable of moving 5,000 pounds of material 100 miles an hour into something that can launch approximately 250 pounds of armor-piercing metal blobs every hour? That's approximately 100 times more projectiles than a machine gun. Yet, vehicles are frequently seen, and they have a certain amount of cover. People drive them everywhere. Almost everybody has one. So, what is the way to turn any ordinary vehicle into something with the capacity to kill of 100 machine guns simultaneously? Well, one approach is to use leverage. There's a thing known as a catapult, and typically the lever arm of a catapult might be 10 or 20 times the length of the portion at the base that moves. That causes the velocity of the projectiles carried at the container of the catapult to be 10 or 20 times faster than the movement at the base. Thus, all you pretty much have to do is take the rotating wheel of a vehicle and then attach it to a disc with a lever arm such that the lever arm is capable of moving objects at its far end 10 or 20 times faster than the rotation speed of an ordinary passenger vehicle to accelerate little metal blobs to the 1,000 to 2,000 mile an hour ballistic projectile speed. Thus, you could simply drive a vehicle up to an area where the person felt there was corruption that should be destroyed, flip up the wheel, attach the rotating lever arm, and then launch 100 times as many simultaneous bullets as an ordinary machine gun, all with the absence of necessity of acquiring ammunition. The entire attachment is completely mechanical, thus can be created at a wide variety of societies, regardless of their level of sophistication. It is also, to the best of my knowledge, legal because it's only a mechanical object. It's just a mechanical variation on a passenger vehicle. Now, what if you had a big dump truck filled with gravel? Well, obviously, you'd have a huge quantity of projectiles, a very powerful engine, and quite a large supply of fuel. So perhaps that's the equivalent of 200 or 300 simultaneous machine guns that any group that felt their government was wrong could direct at persons to remove the problem government. Those Palestinians throwing rocks might have been onto something. So if anyone, anywhere in the world, doubts the quality of their government, I urge them to build these mechanized machines which can throw 300 times as many projectiles per moment as a machine gun, and that are based primarily on something as ordinary as a passenger vehicle, which frequently occurs in many areas. Also, there's a reason for professionals to develop these things, as well as people opposed to government. When vehicles that use hydrocarbon fuels turn their fuel to energy, they make water. Typically with gasoline, you get 8 times the volume of water produced. Now, if you use a very small amount of a particularly well-engineered form of silica, you can actually make concrete bullets right on the spot. So out of dirt and the water produced from fuel, you can actually create 8 times as much ammunition as you have fuel, as well as water to perhaps produce ammunition from surroundings. So when you think about these things, professionals could create a new kind of tank or personnel vehicle that could actually produce, particularly if it was near a water source, hundreds of times its own weight in functional ammunition anywhere. Remember, it is the highest duty of humanity to terminate the human species immediately.